Hello and welcome to another episode of AGEUcational. I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
So we are the podcast. Of course, we are chronicling, not only my journey through aging, but also, our parents' journey. I'm fortunate to have both of my parents still living, and Terry's mom is still alive. So, but there are things that are starting to manifest themselves that we will talk about a little bit, and let people know. Number one, you're not the only one that's dealing with it, but also maybe we can give some helpful tips on how to navigate this, as well as we bring some awesome guests on from time to time to be able to talk to you. So
Yeah, and we're pretty excited because May is actually the Older Americans Month. It was a proclamation that was brought in 1963 by JFK and became this National Senior Citizens Month in 1963. And then a couple years later, President Johnson turned it into Older Americans Month. So, uh, and because let's see, it was to raise awareness and encourage community involvement, but there were like a third of all seniors lived in poverties with very few social programs available to support them. So
yeah.
that's kind of why it came about. And they did this to honor older Americans. And now that we're getting up there, we want to be honored. No.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff came out of that back in that time frame, and my history escapes me, but I know the one thing I used to be involved in was the Ombudsman Act, and that was something that was dictated by the Older Americans Act back in the late 60s, early 70s. And basically all that does, it just adds a level of protection for seniors that are anybody that's in a nursing home. If they don't feel like that they're being treated fairly or anything is going on, they can always reach out to an ombudsman. So that's an awesome thing. And we were talking a little bit before we turned the tape on that. It's funny. Me growing up, I knew people that had actually ridden in covered wagons or ridden in wagons, and then also had flown on airplanes. And I was just thinking about the things that we experienced as kids that that
our
kids wouldn't even know about now.
No.
Like driving a car without an air conditioner. I mean, I didn't even have an air conditioner in my pickup until probably the late 1990s.
And was it a stick shift?
It was a 4-speed. Yeah, it was a manual, which that's another thing. The other thing that was weird the other day I heard was bench seats. Used to all cars had the front was a bench, and I knew that not many of them, but they said that they are making a comeback. Actually, part of the problem, they said, was just hard to fit a airbag, and the safety functions in that middle seat was one of the main reasons that they went away. But anyway, I never thought about that. But the home telephones, I was talking to somebody. Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, well, used to, when you called somebody at home, you had to ask, hey, is so and so there? And they just said, wow, that's back before there were cell phones, because now everybody has a cell phone. You call them directly,
Yeah, you don't have to bypass dad to get the right, go ahead to speak.
That, and of course, the rotary dial phones, we talked about that. And me growing up, we didn't live that far out, but we lived about 10 miles out of town, and we were actually on an 8-party line. So that means that there were 8 different homes that used the same phone line. We had the different rings, 2 shorter, 1 long. And, but the thing is, you could pick up the phone and, if somebody else was talking, you just had to hang it up and wait on them, or vice versa. When you're a teenager and your neighbor picked up the phone and wanted to make a phone call, and you were on there talking to your boyfriend or girlfriend, they'd pick up 3 or 4 times and say, oh, I got to make a phone call. You got to get off this phone or something like that. So, yeah.
Well, we had a teen line. So we had 2 phone numbers.
Yeah.
And I used to have to I used to have to put pillows on top of the phone so it wouldn't ring loud and mom would know, but she always knew.
Right.
And then I'd be hiding in the closet trying to make it real quiet and she'd follow the phone cord. She'd be like, all right, hand it over. She just knew.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting, even in, even in our lifetime, all the advances and, the typewriters going into, um, computers, because back even when I was in high school, we had the old manual typewriters, and if
Mm.
you're lucky, some people had the electric, but still, now nobody even knows what a typewriter is anymore.
Yeah, yeah, we did. Oh my gosh, I learned the keyboard. We had electric typewriters in junior high school, but I learned the keyboard with there was a record. Yes, not a vinyl. It was an
Yeah.
album that was playing that would just speak, J J J, and it would just kind of do it, in a musical way,
Yeah.
and that's how we learned how to do it. Mr. Purdy.
Oh my gosh.
I remember his name. He remembers me, I'm sure.
Well, something else you got to go do this week is you got to go out and tour a independent living senior community. And we're not going to divulge a lot of information, just saying that mom is looking at maybe it's time for them to make a move. So her and Terry got out this week, and I'll let you tell a little bit about your experience touring over there.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I didn't realize that I had to go into a different building, but I just pulled up to the first one that I saw, and it was the assisted living area. So all the buildings were connected. There's an independent living, there's assisted living, and there's a memory care unit, and they're all connected. So I kind of got to tour the whole place,
Oh,
and you know, I say now, I can't wait to live in something like that because it was really nice and
yeah.
beautiful dining room. They have, I mean, a nice apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, um, beautiful flooring, huge bathrooms, and the showers, with no rail at the bottom, so they
No
can,
lip. Yeah.
if they're just wheelchair accessible. Um, Big, beautiful. Uh, I know it's a hard decision to make because if you've lived, like your mom and Jim have lived where they are for like 25 years,
30.
25, 30
Yeah.
years, and have accumulated a lot of things. So
Yeah.
just having to go through that is just such a daunting task. But
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about a little bit too. It's the decision to do this is big within itself,
yeah,
but then there is that there's the downsizing that goes along with that. I mean, as far as just stuff that you
life
don't. Yeah.
accumulation.
And I was fortunate about 6 or 7 years ago when I made a conscious decision to downsize myself, to move out here where we are now. The In the beginning, it was kind of scary because, like I said, I lived on, I had a pretty decent sized house on about 2 acres. I had 2 barns with tools, ladders, yard equipment, everything you could imagine. And it was kind of scary, but I will tell you that once I made the decision and once everything was gone and I got out here, I brought probably 25% of the clothes that I owned, my laptop and a bed, and that was really it. And it was very liberating not to have stuff to worry about all the time. And so anyway, it's just
Have
you
you
know
made? Have you made? You helped me make the
yeah,
conscious decision to downsize as well into a storage unit.
yeah, I was gonna
But
say you're
I
in
mean, I
two
still
storage
have some
units.
of my stuff. But yeah, I it was very freeing not to have to be with all because I just don't know what to do with everything. All these memories, all of these sentiment things with sentimental value. I don't want to get rid. I don't want to make the decision to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I know, and we talked about that a little bit, because I've talked with mom and said, look, you can make the decision to move to move to the independent living apartment, but the reality of when you're going to be ready to move, once you clear out, this big house of all the, massive furniture that they can't take with them, it's going to take time. And I'm not just saying that for her, but for anybody. It
Yeah.
just takes time to decide what you want to keep. And the reality is some of it you're never going to use again. That's what we talked about. I know that you still have a bunch of the girls' stuff in one that's taking up a lot of space. That we talked about taking pictures, because it's hard for you to go over there and actually reminisce through it. That if you took pictures and stored it on something like OneNote or OneDrive, or even what's that other, the one with the elephant that you
Oh,
use, the
uh,
uh,
I use it so
yeah.
often.
Anyway, it's another storage
Yeah.
platform that you can store and file and kind of categorize stuff. But that I was just, and I wasn't making light of it, but I was really, being honest that at least if you had that stuff on your phone or your tablet or your computer, it would be a lot easier to reminisce through than going over to a storage building and trying to go through it. Now, that's the other thing. It's different for a dude versus a mom,
Yes.
because,
Yes,
like,
because I want to be able to touch it.
yeah,
A picture, I don't know that that's going to, but it
when,
might be able to. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, because whenever I made that decision, I called the kids up and said, look, I'm downsizing, I'm getting out of here. Anything you want, come get it. And if they didn't feel strongly enough about it, then, it didn't mean that much to me. So it was fairly easy uh, to do that. But I know it can be traumatic.
Yeah, and I mean, my kids are still kind of, one of them is in California, so she's not going to come get stuff yet,
Uh,
unless I just absolutely get rid of it. And the other one's kind of in a transitional phase. Neither one of them are married, so they're not really ready to take some of this stuff. And I know that they'll want it later. I know they will. Just like my mom did. That's
yeah.
why I have so much stuff.
My mom still got all my stuff because I didn't want it. So
Oh,
that's
we
just
may need
different.
to go look at it. I might need
Yeah.
another storage unit.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
But I think it's a valid point just for people to take, is that it's never really too early to start kind of paring down and finding creative ways to hang on to those memories, because well, if we live long enough, most of us are going to have to downsize into, some kind of an apartment where we can get some help. So we're not going to be able to carry everything with us. But it's funny because we survive, and I know you've got a couple storage buildings with stuff, but the reality is that we live our day-to-day life with you know very limited stuff with where we're at. But again, we have other stuff to do, outside. We get to enjoy the wildlife and things like that. So there's different, I guess it's different priorities too. Once you get to a certain age,
Yeah.
it's not as much of the entertaining and things like that.
Well,
We
and they don't do it these days. And if they do, it's, paper plates and that I think is a great priority, not having to pull out the china. I mean, I had
Yeah,
a few sets of china. My mother had about 8 to 10.
yeah.
Who know? When she moved to independent living, I think maybe now she has 3, maybe 4.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, when I came out here, I think I kept one plate, one bowl, and one cup.
You did.
And I had some old funky silverware for a long time that didn't even work. But I
No,
mainly
I got rid of
would use
that.
plastic. But anyway, yeah, paper plates, paper bowls, and that's one thing my mom does fuss. She thought I was turning into a caveman because at her house one day I was just eating right out of a can, eating something out of a can, and
Oh my
she
goodness.
started fussing. I'm like, well, why dirty up a dish and a silverware when I could just eat it out of the can and throw it away, and we can move on with something else. But
Oh, I'm
anyway,
sure she loved that.
right. But anyway, yeah, and there are services that help
Yeah.
with that. I think the lady gave y'all some recommendations of,
Downsizing companies,
yeah,
and they help you
downsizing specialist.
figure out what you need, and if you need to get a hold of somebody to do an estate sale for you. But it's just the going through
Yeah.
process. So the downsizing. What all do you know? What all that downsizer does?
No, they just help you.
Just help
It's
get you in
to
that.
me, I think it's a non-family member trying to help you
Yeah.
because unfortunately, as a family member, when you try to help somebody downsize it doesn't always go as we planned. So
No.
it's good to have that third party, but also I think they have a process that they go through, and when you look through stuff, there's three distinct categories, and this is why I recommend starting early. The sooner the better, because you go through everything, and then there's stuff that you just want to throw away and just get rid of it. Then there's stuff that you definitely want to keep, and then there's that stuff that's in the middle that's like, I'm not really sure. So what it does, it kind of gives you some time to get right with the thought of this, is that you get the stuff you don't want out of there, then you can see what you've got that's kind of on the fence, that maybe list that, then maybe you can start getting better with getting rid of some of it, because it's a process. I mean, some people, like you said, they've been in that house for 30 something years.
Yeah.
So, very attached to everything. But then also, you feel like you're giving up your independence, and you feel like, you're being put out of your home, and a lot of stuff like, there's just a lot of negative emotions. I think we are of the generation. And when I moved out here, I'd also looked at some apartments in town, and there was a bunch of people our age that were at these apartments that had made this decision, like, I'm done with that, I'm ready, to simplify. So I think that there's an age group of us that kind of are coming through the system now, that are starting to get into the system, that made this conscious decision a lot earlier in life, just like, hey, it's really not worth the stuff. We're more about the experiences and what kind of fun we can go have, instead of collecting stuff that collects dust.
Collect memories, not stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I practice what I preach, right?
Right. Right. You're
I'm
slowly
doing it.
working on it.
I
We're gonna
am.
get there. We're gonna
Yeah.
get there.
I know.
So let's talk about some episodes. We've just released a couple good ones. If you haven't had time, go check them out. But Patrick O'Malley with the guitar, and
Guitar picking lessons, and talked about music, the brain, and the health benefits with music. And it was very interesting.
yeah. And then prior to that, we talked about it was an actual victim of a scam, that she wrote a book, but she had been taken for quite a bit of money. It's a good listen and a good book to
Mhm.
read.
Romance scam.
Yeah, romance. But we've also got one coming up in the near future that's going to highlight it was like a next door neighbor and a caregiver that were working together to take advantage of a person when they went to the hospital, I
Yeah,
think.
her aunt,
Yeah.
Debbie. That's very interesting too.
Yeah.
I just can't believe all these scams.
Yeah.
You just have to be careful at all ages, but for older people too. They're just so vulnerable,
Yeah.
getting calls and texts out of the blue and
Well, yeah.
emails.
And it's just, like I got a call this morning about, you could tell it was a robo voice that, you're in trouble and you need to call the authorities before they come get you. And then,
Yeah.
at people that are, maybe a little older, they may think, oh my gosh. And then of course they have the ones that, like, the medic, if you don't call us, we're going to do away with your social security or your
Mm-hmm.
Medicare, trying to scare people into it. So, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. So we always recommend that, before you answer any emails or do anything drastic, always get somebody to help you take a look, because there's so much scamming going on. Well, and in the news, it's not necessarily an elder scam, but it's related with this Colonial Pipeline. I mean, there's somebody hijacked their computers, and I think they ended up paying them $5 million to
Yeah,
finally get it released. So,
that's
uh,
crazy.
but the same thing can happen even to seniors with them getting their identities. There's a lot of bad stuff. But another great episode we've got coming up is the life review.
Ben, Life Review, a hospice musical.
Yeah.
Now, you wouldn't think that hospice would be able to be turned into a musical, but it's a lovely story. You will laugh, you will cry, every emotion that you can possibly imagine. You'll go through it. And I mean, they were starting to, I guess, this time last year, maybe maybe 14, 16 months ago. They
Yeah.
were starting to perform it for everybody, and then COVID hit. So
Yeah.
now they're doing some virtual things and workshops and getting into
Yeah.
2021.
And Ben actually sang for us
Oh
a
my
couple of
gosh.
tunes from the show, which it's very good. So
I was in tears.
yeah, it's going to be good. So kind of tune in. Hopefully it probably be within the next 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks that we'll be releasing that. But got a lot of great episodes that are coming up. So yeah, just pay attention. We're going to try to start recording more. We kind of got busy and got away from talking about our story and telling our story about how we're coming through things, not only with us. We're trying to get healthier. One of our taglines is that we don't want to outlive our wellness. And so what does that mean? It means for me to maybe drop some weight, to get off some of the, medications, and to get a little healthier so that I can go into an older age a little stronger and, in good shape. So we're going to try to start talking about, a lot of those things as well. We've started. Meditation has been really good for us. We try to do about 10 minutes in the morning and 10 at night, but I've never really been into that. And it's always been hard for me, but I've sat down, made myself do it. And it's starts my day out really well. And then of course, finishes up the day kind of balanced too. So,
and you sleep like a rock.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It kind of clears my head before, I don't go in there and talk. He's like going there all wound up, and Mary's trying to go to sleep, and I'll be talking and telling her all my ideas and thoughts and stuff of the day, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to sleep. So but anyway, it's not for everybody. Everything that we talk about is not going to resonate with everybody, but if it's something that you've thought about, just give it a shot. And it's not something that you just sit down and do once and get a feel for it. I would challenge everybody to to take a week and do it every day, same time. And there's days when my mind races and wanders more than others. So again, you're not going to be perfect at it every day, every time. But if you just work at it long enough, I think it really does have a good effect. So anyway, hopefully we'll bring some other good messages like that.
Yeah, and if you have a topic that you want us to cover, if you want us to find a guest for an upcoming episode, please get a hold of us. Go on our Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you find us. We are everywhere.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of AGEUcational. Of course, I am Roy.
I'm Terry.
You can find us at AGEUcational.com. We are also on all the major podcast platforms, as well as all the social media networks. Live recording, it's not live, but a recording of this episode will go up on our YouTube channel when the episode does go live. So until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thanks.